future reside, we are going to always have an individualized perceptual experience. Everyone does. We can have some agreement within that, and we can have many disagreements. Most people are going to find that they're not in total agreement with anyone, as long as we're in a thinking mode. When we are experiencing the now beyond the filter, we would be experiencing the same reality, the exact same reality, because that's what's real. This is, Einstein said, I want to know how God thinks, the rest of the details, and the details belong to the linear track, if you're so inclined to view it that way, the linear track, the past, the present, the future. That ties right in, all of this ties in with where we left off and what we were talking about. I'm going to just kind of go back a little bit for the sake of those who weren't here last week, but this is what Christ really was trying to bring people to understand. It's what Buddha was trying to bring people to understand. It's the same message that Krishna spoke of. And whether you follow one tradition or another, if you go to the core, if you go to the real fundamental truth that's being conveyed, you'll find it's going to be common to all the teachings. If it's not common to all the teachings, you haven't found truth. Because truth is that which goes beyond perception. That's what truth is. And because it goes beyond perception, it's going to be universal. If you try to perceive, then of course you're going to be going into a filter and you're going to perceive using perception, and obviously you're going to find a variation of truth. It's no longer pure. It's lost its purity. This is the difference between awake and asleep. That's the sum difference. And we've talked in here many, many times about awake and asleep. The Course in Miracles says the same thing, and it says this is all you can have, awake or asleep. That's it. Sums it up, awake or asleep. The Course in Miracles also says that if you want to understand totally, you must understand totality. Right? And so, if you wish to be awake, then you'd have to look at the totality of what is, not how you would perceive it. No one's going to be able to perceive totality. You can experience totality, but you can't perceive it. And this is what's interesting with modern physics. Modern physics is starting to get to that point where they're going to explain it from a scientific standpoint. And what they've found is, when you look at an object, when they're examining the object, whether, I guess, quarks. When they're looking at a quark, the property of the quark is being affected by the observation, which means you can't observe it and experience the purity because your observation of it is affecting the properties. You see how this is exactly the same thing that we're talking about. Eternity can be experienced, but you can't try to figure out eternity and still experience it in its purest state. Makes sense? So anyway, this is what Christ was trying to bring people to understand. And what Christ recognized was the scribes and the Pharisees, back in the day, were not teaching this. They were not teaching people to become spiritually awakened, but they were teaching them to follow the letter of the law that they had laid down.
When you mentioned quarks and quantum physics and so on, the mere observation of something can change it, that to me begins to tie in how we're all intertwined, how prayer can affect something, prayer can heal, prayer can have an effect, your thoughts can affect other things, because it's all energy, it's all intertwined, and now science is getting to the point where they can observe those changes that are happening just by the mere observation of it. Somebody did a book, what was it, The Truth About Water, The Properties of Water, or something, where they did experiments with water, and they would pray about one bottle of water, another one they would say bad things about it, and so on. And the molecules became different in
Sure.
different bottles of water. And so, and we're all what? Was it 70% water? A high percentage of water. And if water is that easily affected by our thoughts and prayers and whatever, then who's to say that that wouldn't be changed, that a body would not be changed by the same energies?
Which is exactly where Christ was leading here. And this is exactly the point that you're making, ties right in with where we're headed right now. Christ was teaching the mechanics of creation. What we're talking about right here, what you just described, is the mechanics of creation. It's the interaction, and it's the interaction between thought and energy, thought and matter. Everything that exists is affected by everything that exists. Okay? When we, as individualized aspects of God, as I like to call units of consciousness, because that's a nice way of describing what we truly are. Units of consciousness. Units of consciousness are interacting with other units of consciousness and other units and so on and so on and so on. Ultimately, it's all consciousness, whether it be in terms of energy, the electricity, whether you look at matter, whether we look at that matter and then we see that, again, physics would say matter and energy are interchangeable, right? What is, you don't destroy energy, but you change its form, right? I can light a match and I'm going to change the form of this table, but what happened to the energy that was present? The energy just changes form. It didn't go anywhere in the sense of it didn't disappear. I can't destroy it. I can alter its appearance. I can alter its form, which is what happens within creation in the various dimensions of time and space. As spiritual units of consciousness, we travel through creation and experience self, the real self, at different levels and different frequencies. Now, if we're asleep, obviously we're still existing. We're always going to exist. Forever we're going to exist. We're infinite beings. But you're going to exist in a sleeping state is going to be a different experience than the awakened state, obviously. Both are going to give you an experience. One is going to be, and this is where at one point when we talked about joy, and I said, we really shouldn't have new labels, because when we use a label like a word such as joy, most people are going to have a memory. I know what joy is. I remember joy. The moment you remember joy, you're not experiencing the fullness of joy. Because again, you're experiencing a memory, as opposed to you're not fully present in the now. I'm gone into my thoughts. Okay? I'm back into something that I have categorized back here. I know joy. I know. No.
Or what it's supposed to be.
What it's supposed to be. I don't know what it's supposed to be.
What if you say I had a great day? I mean, what's wrong with saying that?
No, I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with appreciating the day. That's great. What I'm saying is this, that when we label something, when we categorize something, we are limiting that. And there is another form of experience that supersedes and goes way beyond what we would already have a label for. That's all I'm trying to say.
I don't understand that. In other words, like, say at the end of the day, I always say to Gary, how was your day? I said, oh, I had a great day. How was your day? How is that limiting my experience?
No, I'm just saying, when you look at it, and not much different than what we're talking about with physics. When you look at something, you alter the purity of it, because you're looking at it and you're analyzing it. As opposed to when you're witnessing that sunset and you're in that moment, you're completely in that moment. That's pure. Now, describe it. You can't describe the purity of it. It gets diluted to a certain degree.
I can follow that, and I've seen on What the Bleep that's the experiments of observing, whatever go through. I don't know. They have a hole and it doesn't go through the same way, but I still don't comprehend that.
Well, let me say this. This is something that you will experientially experience as you move along. And we all do this. We all have had moments or glimmers. That's what the Course in Miracles talks about. The Course in Miracles, what is the miracle? The miracle is when you have a moment of reality within the dream. That's a miracle. Now, it may not last, but you had touched it. In the moment you touch it, that's something now that you can reestablish and have it again, and reestablish and have it again, and have it again, and have it again. Now, how do we do that? We do that in the Gospel of Thomas. In the Gospel of Thomas, they asked Jesus about heaven. Now, that would be truly heaven. Truly heaven would be to be fully awakened, right? So when they asked Jesus about when heaven's coming, what did he say? That which you seek already exists. You just don't see it. And it doesn't come with observation. It comes with experience. In terms of eternity, now always is. If now always is, we're not waiting for that moment, that magic moment when we're going to finally, time has brought us to that point when we're awake. Because now always is, if we're not embracing that awakened state, I'm asleep, and my dreams and my beliefs, every thought I have, is going to keep me somewhere within time. Somewhere. It's me. It's my beliefs. Nothing but me and my beliefs can stop me from experiencing my awakened state. And many have talked about it. Buddha talked about detaching from the whole world, outside of self, detach from everything around you. Christ said, forsake everything and everyone. Right? Now, if you're forsaking everything and everyone, it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy your date. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy an ice cream. You can enjoy everything. But how you're interpreting it with this mind is going to have a bearing on that which you experience.
See, the law of attraction says the opposite. You're supposed to claim what you want, and then every time you say I had a great day, the next day is going to be greater because you're putting that positive energy out to the universe.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not going to say that the law of attraction doesn't exist and it's not going to bring you experiences and bring you more of what you want. It probably will. And I also say the law of attraction can be a great tool and it can become a great barrier. It can be both.
Yeah, and I think really, like what you're talking about and the law of attraction, I think are really two different speaking points. The law of attraction is basically how to create matter that's around us, and like what Gary was talking about is very true, and it's exciting that science is starting to show that this stuff is true, that we're all connected. Did you ever see the show where they test things, those two guys?
Yeah, once in a while I watch that, yeah.
What is the name of the show?
Oh, Coaching watches. I know. Science, yeah.
Two guys.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And and they test things.
Yeah,
Well, Mythbusters.
Mythbusters, there you go.
Yeah. So they had a tree, and they hooked it up to a polygraph machine. And they had a guy think evil, bad thoughts about the tree. And it reacted. So they put the tree inside of a trailer and put glass windows up and sealed it off and had the guy stand outside the trailer and think bad thoughts about the tree, and it reacted.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
There's a book, and as a matter of fact, they have it in that box over there called The Secret Life of Plants. And that's basically what they were talking about. And they did that same experiment. I don't know exactly when they did it, but they did that same experiment with a polygraph machine or something. And they saw that plants were affected by thoughts. There's no question.
Yeah, so it's just interesting, like because I just read that book because Megan brought it to me. But yeah, I mean that's about the physical world we live in, and goes into a little bit about what you're talking about. But I think they're two different points.
They are two different points to some degree.
Right.
And the law of attraction definitely is utilizing a universal law that exists, and yes, you will magnetize to you energies that will support whatever you're calling for.
Right. So
Now
careful
that
what you
being
ask
said,
for.
that being said, what you're calling for is going to be, unique to every individual. And now you have to. This is where now, when you're going to get into the highest element of truth, I would call it, you have to define what your treasure is. Because if in fact you are utilizing the law of attraction for the spiritual good, now what is it that you really would be calling for? See, from my standpoint, I don't know. As a spirit, I don't know what would be the most beneficial for me to experience today or tomorrow or next week. I don't know that. From a ego mind,
But
oh, I know exactly what I would like and what form I would like, and so on and so on and so on. Now, will the law work for both? Absolutely. I mean, the law of gravity, every single time, it doesn't matter. If the dog picks this up and drops it, it's going to work the exact same way. The law is not looking and judging what I'm calling for. It's just doing its job. It's giving. And the law of attraction will do that. The law of attraction will always give. The more you believe, now this is key with anything. The more you believe, the less conflicting energies you're putting out there, which gives it more strength to give you that which you're calling for. Because your belief is everything. When you say, I want such and such, but, see the but the moment the but comes into play, I've negated that energy, or at least diluted it. You know, I first put out the energy, then the moment it's not even out of my mouth, and I'm diluting the energy before I put it out. Well, how strong is it now?
Well, that's what the law of attraction says. You're going to take away all this good energy that you just
You've
have.
taken away. See now again, in terms of the now moment, now always is. So I say one thing. The very next moment, I can contradict what I just called for. Now the universe has these two energies that I threw out this one, I threw out this one, I threw out this, and we do this constantly. We're constantly throwing all of this stuff, and then we wonder, well, that's not the way I asked for it. You know?
An easy one is, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
I want to lose weight. Well, what are you really saying?
Well,
I'm fat.
I might get cancer and I'll lose weight just like that. You know, it's like, you know what I mean? So yes, that's why they say be careful what you ask for.
But you can say, I want to learn to eat healthier.
Well, yeah, I would love to be a very, very fit, healthy individual, as opposed to I want to lose weight. And now you've created a real positive image that the universe can work with, rather than So if you're gonna play with the law of attraction, clarity is very important. You know, in being clear what you're calling for, very, very important. But that being said, we're gonna go back
I don't
to.
understand that. Okay, if you don't want to say, I had a great day, what would you say?
What would I say? I had a perfect day.
You knew what he was going to say.
You know, I had a perfect day. I had a day. See, now here's the thing. I've been training myself, not to say that I don't have moments when you know, old thought patterns creep in and I say things that are going to be detrimental or stand in the way of my fully being present. I do. I have
You mean
moments.
you die on a daily basis?
Do I? Yeah, absolutely. I die on a daily basis.
So that wasn't you walking on water?
No, I mean,
It could have been
I mean-
earlier.
Christ had his moments. Jesus had his moments of when he struggled with his own conscious thoughts and beliefs. We all do. And this is the beauty of seeing that Jesus struggled, to me, is much, much more helpful than seeing him as a perfect creation of God that didn't have the same shit to deal with that you got to.
Remember he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Exactly. In that moment, that was a human reaction. That was an ego thought. When in the garden, if there's any way that you know this can come by without coming to my lips, I mean, I don't want this experience in that moment. He was saying, he followed it up with, but your will be done, not mine. In that moment, he surrendered his ego. He let God's will come through for the betterment of the whole. I'll play the game, even though I don't like pain. It's like, if I was sitting there, I wouldn't want to be nailed to the cross either. Many times, I didn't want the path that I knew I was walking onto. It was like, I don't know if I want to go down this road, because I knew ahead. I'm not stupid. I knew ahead of time how it would affect my life and my relations and everything in my world. My first gut reaction was, are you kidding me? I don't want any part of that shit. I'm going to do my own thing. That was my first gut reaction. It was only after I had different experiences that convinced me that this was true and real, and I was really being called to commit and do it. I said, well, okay. That then is laying down the life. That's what laying down the life was all about. Did I lay down my life in that moment? Yeah, I did. I went through a bankruptcy, a divorce, and you know, everything.
There's still life after all that stuff. That's what I keep telling
Well, the point is this: once you go through it, in that moment, I mean, it was the most painful thing that I could imagine as I was going through. Once it was done, it was the most freeing experience. I had nothing. I remember thinking, I have no money. No one can touch that. I mean, they're not gonna rob me now. You know, I didn't have a home anymore. I don't have to worry about them taking that away. My family was gone. And I look and I say, wow, okay, now I'm ready. You know, come on, bring it on. What are you gonna do? You know, at that moment, I didn't even have an attachment to the body. You want to take this? Take this too. I don't care. So in that moment, I was totally free. Totally. What's the worry? Now we'll do it. So, you know, we do, once you go through something, it's like going to the dentist. You know, it's very, we suffer with the thought of what's coming more than what we actually experience. Once you go through it, it's, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, that being said, everything we're talking about here is energies and our experience and our interaction with the whole. And this is why Christ was talking the way he was talking. And he was talking about the scribes and the Pharisees being hypocrites because they were teaching the letter of the law, teaching men to live by the laws of the land and not by living connected to God, Spirit. So, there are several well-known passages where Jesus directly addresses the scribes and the Pharisees and warns them of the harm that they are doing by obscuring the truth. His warning was well-founded. Each person is subject to and responsible for his own thoughts. You know, we're just talking about how we interact with creation. So if it's true, which it is, that our every thought is creative to some degree, on some level, doesn't it make sense we're responsible for those thoughts? Because we're setting energies into motion that are affecting the whole. According to Jesus, there is a clear need to be pure of heart before prayer. Now again, this is where we're going to go into prayer. All right, I'm going to pray for something. Well, I'm going to pray for something, but I'm going in there with a mess of confusing, conflicting thoughts. It makes sense. Get pure, then go into your prayer. Don't go in with a mess and figure you're going to prayer and it's going to come out clean. Even go so far as to point out that it is necessary to clear all judgmental thoughts before offering a gift to the Father. He referred to this because of his understanding of the law of attraction. You cannot escape the consequences of your thoughts playing out in this world. No one can. We're all going to have these things. This is true. It becomes obvious that by holding on to a judgment about another, it is impossible to connect to the vibration of God in unconditionally loving presence. Remember Einstein said, I want to know how God thinks, the rest of the details. Okay. How many believe God is non-judgmental and unconditionally loving? We all believe that. Okay. We all believe that God is non-judgmental and unconditionally loving. Does it make sense that you're going to go into a meditation or a prayer or whatever, and you're going to meet and connect with that vibration, which is unconditionally loving, if you've got nothing but judgmental thoughts? You know, you go in with these judgmental thoughts, and you think you're going to connect with that vibration. I'm sorry, you're not going to connect with that vibration. You're going to connect with a vibration that is operating at a frequency which is close to yours. Not close to this. Not to say that you don't have the vibration within your core, but in that moment, in the mind, when the ego goes in with you, you're operating at that vibration, not your purest vibration. Only when you consciously cleanse yourself, release all your judgments, release all of these thoughts, will you be in that vibration. See how? And so whatever, and this is why when people channel, it's very interesting when somebody goes in, I'm going to meditate, and they meditate, and they hear something. Oh, God told me this. Wait a minute. Whatever vibration they went into their meditation with is what they're going to receive from. They're not going to receive from the highest level within creation if they're operating down here. It just doesn't work. Oh, God told me to go out and kill so-and-so, and I'm doing God's will. Whoa, wait a minute. No, you never heard from God. What you heard from was an ego mind, another unit of consciousness operating at a frequency where you are connected in that moment. And this is why it's very dangerous sometimes for people to just blindly follow whatever they hear, even in a quiet, what they would call a quiet state. Until you cleanse and purify your own mind, you're not going to connect with the pure vibration. Just makes sense. This is what Jesus also said when he's talking about the thoughts. Make friends quickly with your accuser. While you are going with him to court, lest the accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly I say to you, you will never get out till you have paid the last penny. He's talking about linear time here. He's talking about the energies playing themselves out. I'm going to go on here before I start explaining that, because I kind of explained it as we go along here. No one can escape the law of cause and effect. Every thought must be accounted for in some way, either by experience or by grace. Big deal. Experience or by grace. You know, I talked about this a couple times. We, at the beginning here, just talked about everything being connected energetically. If you have some unresolved issues, in this now moment, every one of us could go into a meditative state, meaning quiet this mind, or even focus on some issue that you want to deal with. Let's say you had a problem with Aunt Millie. I don't have an Aunt Millie, but let's say somebody had an Aunt Millie and they had a problem. Aunt Millie passed on, and you had some unresolved issues. Go into a meditative state. Imagine Aunt Millie. Bring up that conscious state of Aunt Millie and release the energy. When you do, you have released the energy. It's done. Aunt Millie doesn't have to be standing here, because all of it's interconnected. When you've done that, that issue's gone. There may be Uncle Fred that you have a problem with now, but Aunt Millie's done. You know.
You know what Gary taught me this week is, like, if you've got a problem with somebody or an issue, sit there and write down all their positive attributes.
Okay.
And then you start to see the situation in a different light.
Well, yeah, our thoughts and beliefs. Whatever works, and that definitely can be a catalyst to bringing a different belief about that individual. That's beautiful. Because what Christ also said is, what you hold in this world will be held in heaven, what you let loose in this world will be let loose in heaven. As long as you're playing in linear time, as long as you're asleep, you are going to be subject to the law of cause and effect. And if you've got negative energies that you're hanging on to about anything or anyone, yeah, it would definitely behoove you to go in and find some way to release those energies. And if it helps to look at someone's positive attributes, and definitely it would, because what happens is this. Well, then maybe that person isn't the asshole that I thought they were. You know, I changed my mind about it. You change your mind, you change the energy, you change the whole experience.
And then, you know what I also believe? At your next meeting with that person, you're sending off those positive vibrations, so that person is probably going to be more receptive to you.
Absolutely. See, everyone, and this is one of the things that the Course in Miracles is very good at. The Course in Miracles says that which you perceive, you project. That which you projected, you're going to perceive. And now, remember, the universe's job is to agree with you. The universe's job is to agree with you. So if you're projecting out all this negativity, then the universe is going to bring that person into your presence, and they're going to be representative of your belief. And then, remember what the Bible says? God's going to give them delusions to believe their own lies. That's what it meant. God will give them delusions to believe their own lies. When you're hanging on to something, you're projecting the energy out there. The universe is supplying you with an experience, and that experience then validates your erroneous belief, even though it's not true. You then find that belief getting solidified even more. I knew that person was such and such. See, they were the last time, and they are again. And it keeps going and going and going and going until we change our mind. We're hanging on to that energy. Okay? I'll talk more about grace as we move along, but for now it's helpful to remember that the events in your life are being perfectly orchestrated to fit the picture you have constructed in order to purge yourself of ego, i.e. the judgmental mind. So, just what you're saying. You're hanging on.
You can create the perfect life for yourself.
I'm sorry?
You can create the perfect life for yourself.
You can experience the perfect life for yourself when you let go of your judgmental thoughts. Because in reality,
that's the art of allowing.
That's the art of, exactly. Now this goes right back to what I was talking about with the law of attraction. It's very, very difficult for us to play with the law of attraction and be allowing at the same time. Okay? And I know this is a stretch, and sometimes our ego minds would want to play with that, and that's all I'm going to say about it for now. I'm not going to go any more with it.
Let me tell you my experience. I'm ADHD, and I use the law of attraction. And I'm in a job that's really busy, and I learned the art of allowing. I don't have to worry about them.
Good.
I have to worry about me. And when
Always.
you focus on yourself, and you focus on your good, and you just allow them, you know what? You take, okay, when you focus on them, then you're bringing in the negative. You just allow them to be. Let them do what they want to do. Then it's all good. It's a win-win.
This is what Christ was talking about when he says, be in the world but not of the world. And now, when you recognize awake and asleep, and that's why I say, you want to keep it simple, there's awake and asleep. When you are interacting with any individual on the planet, or any circumstance on the planet, if you're awake, and you're not judging and you're allowing everything and everyone to be who they are, then there's perfection. You want to take away the perfection? View it from the sleeping state, judge it in any way whatsoever, and you put yourself into a form of hell.
That's where I was.
Right? I mean, we all do this. If you're going to define hell, that's a good definition of hell. Hell is looking at this world through a judgmental mind and trying to make it into something. Either the world or the person. Make them into something that would fit your picture. They're not right.
See, that's what I was doing. I was looking at all these employees that said, you should be doing this, this, and this, and you'd be a success. They didn't want to hear it. So now I allow them to do what they want to do, and I go on and do what I want to do.
Well, except for, when it comes to work, I would say there is a job description, and here you have to do these jobs. This is the job. Now, if they're not doing the job, I can say, listen, this is the job. I don't have to judge that person. If the job's not done, then I'm sorry, but here's what your job says, you got to do it. That's all.
Right, and you can allow somebody to let themselves get fired too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can allow them to say, they don't want to work here anymore because they don't want to do the job. That's what the job is. Now, you don't have to judge them when they're not doing their job. It's just, you see that my job is to sweep the floor and it's not swept. Well, don't come in tomorrow. You didn't do your job. When referring to the picture that you have constructed, I do not mean to imply that you retain in your memory all the details you have contributed with your every thought. Now, what I'm talking about, of course, is in this moment when a picture comes into mind, I'm not consciously cognizant of all of the data that I've stored away here. But there is a consciousness that exists within creation that does have all these details, and it's going to orchestrate the exact perfect moment for me, and the exact perfect moment for everyone else. to let go of our judgmental mind. Actually, that's what every experience within this world is there. I remember saying a while back, we are either experiencing love, which would be another word for saying God. God and love, they're synonymous with one another, or a lesson. We're going to put God on this side, love on this side, and on this side, the Course in Miracles would say, fear or ego. That's it. I mean, if I'm experiencing my true spiritual self, as Einstein said, I want to know how God thinks. If I'm experiencing as God's thinking, I am in that moment awake. It may not be what I choose the next moment. Somebody else may come along and something else comes along and I forget again. I die on a daily basis. Yeah. But it's A or B, A or B, A or B. And the more you experience the true spiritual self, the more you recognize. And this is where we talked a while back about the difference between judgment and discernment. Discernment should only be used when you are evaluating whether I am present. And of course, if you're present, you really don't have to evaluate because you'd be there. The moment you slip out of it, then discernment is a great tool. Then I recognize, oops, I forgot again. I just called that person an asshole. Oh, sorry. No, but I got caught. I got caught again. But as you're progressing and you're getting caught and you're becoming awake to the fact you're getting caught, you're becoming more aware. Right? You're becoming more aware. I'm aware of the fact that now I'm seeing myself. So what we're really doing is, and later we're going to get into this in the other part of the book, what we're really doing is we're really connecting with the true spirit within. The I am of the soul is awakening. I'm awakening to my true self. I'm awakening to the fact that it wasn't as though I had to judge these people. I didn't have to do this. And it wasn't really even me doing it. It was my ego. It was my pattern of thoughts and my beliefs that I had carried with me up to this moment. Once I awaken, I'm an observer now. You know, you ever observe yourself and then observe yourself observing yourself? It's interesting. You know, when you catch yourself doing something that you used to do just out of habit, you then are an observer. You're breaking the chain. You're cutting it off. Boom.
You're allowing.
You're allowing, and the ego then is getting diminished. It's no longer on autopilot. See, most people think, well, I don't have any choice. It's just automatic. It just happens. I say, bullshit. It doesn't just happen. You've conditioned yourself to respond this way, and we do things out of habits. We become very, very habitual.
Because most people don't take the time to meditate and to listen to their inner spiritual guides. And that's why they're on autopilot.
People say they made me mad, and they act like they had no choice. They made me mad. I had to hit them. I had to do this,
Yeah.
or whatever, because they made me mad.
No.
They don't seem to understand that they have a choice, how they feel about those things, how they react.
And this is what Christ, if you really want to know what the crucifixion was about, this is what the crucifixion really was about. The crucifixion was Jesus trying to show that the spiritual essence within cannot be touched. No one can force you to do anything. I mean, and he brought it to the extreme by allowing the body to be killed to demonstrate that I am not the body. I am not the ego personality. And you can't touch the spirit. You cannot kill spirit. And that's what that's about. And if we understood that, and then lived our lives through that level of consciousness, then now Jesus truly was a savior.
We already have eternal life, and there's nothing to fear.
Exactly.
We are spirit, we're energy, and that is never destroyed.
Right, but you don't necessarily experience the perfection within until you awaken.
Correct.
As long as you're asleep, You can be perfect from now until all of eternity, but you'll never experience that perfection as long as you're holding on to a thought that is impure, that is judgmental. Release the judgmental. Now this is where we've talked in here many times about in the now moment. Now always is. And here's my thought. If this thought is unconditionally loving, I'm experiencing my awakened pure state. If this thought is judgmental, I judged something. In that moment, can I experience my perfection? What do I experience? I can't experience anything other than what my thought is. Remember the thing about the people. If I've established this person is always an asshole every time I see him, then I carry that with me. The person comes into my view, boom. See? And then it happens all over again. But I let it go, that person comes in. Now this is where it's vitally important that you don't bring any past in with you. The past cannot exist in the now moment. It can't. Or you're not going to experience perfection if you bring the past in, because the last time they were an asshole.
No, I'm raising my children. Once they had their punishment, that was the end of discussion. We never brought up an episode of that.
Right.
Yeah, it was done, over, you did it, you got the consequences, and
Yeah, it's done.
Never brought it
Done
up.
deal. Don't ever bring it up
I
again.
used to go to my girlfriend's house and she'd tell her son, you did this, 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 and this. I'm like, he's already done the punishment, why bring it up?
Yeah.
Eventually, they're gonna
Time
see
served.
that you believed in them, and if you keep bringing up, you failed here, that's what it said to me, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you know?
Now what happens is you have indoctrinated into their mindset. You've given them an identity that they're going to hang on to, and now they're going to play that identity out.
That's a big million.
And so, yeah, we do a tremendous amount of harm to our children and those around us by our erroneous beliefs. We do, and you know, this is where the Course in Miracles says we're all students and we're all teachers. And what we're teaching is what we believe. We're always teaching what we believe. We're always teaching what we believe. Doesn't matter. Whatever you believe in, you're representing that belief system. If I believe that, you know, this is all there is, and I got to have such and such, and it has to be my way, and well, then I'll probably be the asshole to many people. No. But if I let go of all of the world and I just stay centered in myself, I then become, actually, if I do that, I become the Christ. I become the example. And this is why I say, at first, when I first thought about doing this kind of work and making a commitment, my first thought was, well, I had a son that was, you know, it was very hard for me to change the relationship, and, you know, the old patterns and the old beliefs were so ingrained in here. For example, when I drop him off, after my divorce, I drop him off on a Sunday night, and he's crying, Dad, don't leave, don't leave. And, you know, my heart was being ripped out of my mouth. Oh. But then, when I realized that I loved his spirit, and I'm serving his spirit more than the person, more than the personality, that now I could let go of my belief that this was painful. Good evening. At least for me. I'm not saying that in that moment that he wasn't experiencing pain, and he did. And he's, to this day, he's got some resentment, you know, that, oh, you abandoned me, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, at some point when he wakes up, he'll recognize that the spiritual level is more important than the personal relationship. This is what Christ meant when he said, you must forsake your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, your children, even yourself, to be my disciple. When you interact with someone on a truly spiritually awakened state, then you're not going to know anymore. From the ego mind, you're not going to have an answer. You're not going to know what tomorrow should bring, what that relationship should look like, other than just share love. Just whatever happens, don't judge it, just share love. Now, forsaking, and don't get me wrong, forsaking doesn't mean abandoning. Forsaking means letting go of the past thought patterns, thought beliefs, the old way of thinking. And we all have a human mind. I know we all do, and we've all put values on things, and that value that you put on things many times is going to cloud your vision, because it's going to create a picture in your own mind as to how to deal with such and such, how to deal with this, how to deal with that. In truth, if you stay empty and connected, Spirit will orchestrate, and it will actually manifest itself in a whole different light. Just as Megan was talking about, if you don't go into that next meeting with that individual with a preconceived idea, then, wow, I had an experience with that person, I couldn't even believe it. I never saw that part of them before. Where'd it come from? Did they magically wake up? You know, the energies we carry in definitely have a bearing on the experience we're having.
What's the Gary told me? Just write down the positive attributes. So what you're saying basically is forsaken is the same thing as grace.
Is what? Erase?
It's grace.
It's grace, absolutely. It is the exact same thing.
Favor.
It means, what would grace be? Grace would be what we experience in the now moment when we're experiencing our true spirit, where the past doesn't come into play.
Correct.
Right? The past doesn't come in. This is where they talk about forgiveness in the highest definition. That would be the highest definition of forgiveness is forgetting. It doesn't exist. It's no longer existing within
Tabula
anywhere.
rosa. That's what it's called.
What is it called?
Tabula rosa in psychology, a blank slate.
Blank slate. That is the grace of God. And this is where now let's tie it back into the Course in Miracles. Some point we may talk about that after we're finished with this. When? Anyway, the Course in Miracles says this about forgiveness. It says forgiveness is the key in every moment to bring you to that point of having the miracle. Okay, I'm paraphrasing. But in the end of the Course in Miracles, it says when you reach the atonement would be awake in the now moment. Okay? That would be the atonement. When you reach the atonement, you recognize forgiveness was not necessary. Why? How do you, what was the word you just used? The word that you just used.
Oh, tabula rosa.
All right. Clean slate. In the awakened state, in the now moment, if the past isn't brought into this, who's guilty of anything? No one is guilty of anything. Now this is the love that God, and this is the way God's mind would judge anything or anyone. Everyone is pure innocent, purely innocent. Everyone, no matter what they thought they did, in terms of ultimate reality, no one is guilty of anything.
But now, let me ask you this about employees, because I'm in charge of a crew. What if I catch an employee stealing, or, you know, I caught an employee
You have my
today.
business card.
We took out the Jeep today,
Yeah.
my assistant Tina and I, and we found out that an employee yesterday had driven like 100 miles and had doctored his Jeep mileage.
Yeah.
So do we do tabula rosa? But he's also stealing from the company, so how do you handle a situation like that?
Well, now, see again, here's where Spirit would have to guide you, and you would have to hear what to do in any given situation. But I would say this. I would say that if I laid down a job description,
Right.
stealing is not acceptable. Okay, here's my job description. And I would cover this with my employees. I'd say, listen, here's what's expected of you. You do this, this, and this, and here's our contract. Okay? And down here, you see where it says no stealing? Okay, if you steal from me, our contract is finished. Our relationship is finished. Do you understand the contract? Okay. No judgment about this. It just is what it is.
And actually,
That's
if
beautiful.
you look at it, if you know, when you try to do what's best for everyone or both people in a situation. If they're stealing from you, it's not good for you, and it's certainly not good for them, because if they're stealing, they think there's lack, they think that they don't have the ability to do it on their own, they think they have to steal something that they really don't have to.
Yeah, you're not necessarily doing them a favor by keeping them on because they're
No.
stealing and you caught
You're
them.
probably doing
No.
them a favor.
You're really doing them an injustice.
Yes, you could do it and not judge them. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Because you're enabling at that point, instead of allowing,
enabling.
you're enabling.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they might learn something about themselves, you know? I mean, don't, because they do something, doesn't mean you have to take on their
Right.
sins,
Right.
so
You
to
don't have to
speak.
be their
Right.
doormat.
Right.
Yeah, no one's a doormat in terms of unconditional love. And this is where, you know, in and of itself, there is no wrong in this world. But, that being said, in this dimension of time and space, okay, there are laws that are applicable to this world, and there are laws that belong here, and that's why Jesus was saying the scribes and the Pharisees, you're teaching the letter of the law, but you're leaving out the higher element here, okay? But when you're dealing with this dimension, the law of the land is something that exists here. And if someone wants to go beyond that law, well, they know the consequences. This is the way it is. And I'm not going to say, well, I'm unconditionally loving, so I can't judge this individual, and so I allow everything.
Well,
No.
Jesus said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's.
Absolutely, absolutely. When somebody is trying to circumvent and use spiritual truths for their benefit, now that's no longer the spiritual truth in the purest form, and should not be allowed.
I see you didn't want no company, so we better take her home.
Okay, you have a good one. Thank you. Where was
So
I?
give
Yeah,
them
let's see.
Caesar's what is Caesar's, and give up to God what is God.
Yeah, that's what they, how he responded when they asked him. They were going to trick him. They said, well, listen, you know, we're supposed to give taxes. Jesus says we should give taxes. What should we do? Blah, blah, blah. And Christ was definitely trying to show the distinction between the human experience and the spiritual. When you're playing within the dimension of time and space, hey, whatever the law is, you observe the law or you deal with the consequence. I know that the traffic light, I'm supposed to stop when it's red, and if I go through it, I'll probably get a ticket if there's somebody around, you know. And if I choose, then I'm going to deal with the consequence, no matter what.
We're talking about that. If anybody's traveling on 6 Miles Cypress, we saw 4 people pulled over, and they're driving blue Mustangs, undercover police. Blue Mustangs.
That's an injustice right there.
That's a judgment.
Well, I don't remember where I left off, so I'm going to start at the beginning of this paragraph again. When referring to the picture that you have constructed, I do not mean to imply that you retain in your memory all the details that you have contributed with your every thought, but you can rest assured that you gave the Holy Spirit a specific vibration. We're all doing this individually, every moment of every day. We are all carrying with us. I have a unique thumbprint. We all do. We also have a unique frequency. Now, I'm saying that unique frequency is unique and it's operating directly related to my connection to God or my connection to ego. That's going to alter and affect my frequency. Every time I feed my ego, I'm going to lower my energy. Every time I connect to God, I'm going to raise my energy. Now, until I am fully awakened, I'm carrying a frequency somewhere in between that spectrum. If I'm not fully awake, and Christ really was coming here to take man to the level of fully awake, even though I'll get a lot of disagreement in this world, and most people don't believe that, oh, I didn't come here to wake up. I didn't come here to forsake my ego human life. I came here to have one hell of a good life. And God wants me to. And God wants me to have this and that and that and that. Why not? God's loving. Well, I'm not going to tell him, you do whatever you want to do. But I'll tell you this. Unconditional love has a frequency that cannot be held when you have an attachment to form in any way. In any way, that form can be even, well, they believe. I believe this, I believe that. If I believe in anything that's rooted in judgment in any way, I'm not going to be operating in unconditional love. Can't. It's impossible. Because God wouldn't be operating at that frequency. God wouldn't be judging. So if you want to know how God thinks, Einstein said, I want to know how God thinks. Think like God. Okay, well, let's see. What would God judge in this world? I see, no.
No more than your hand judges your foot.
God wouldn't judge this world. This is one of the reasons why, when Christ was here, at the beginning of Christ's ministry, he said this to his followers: "You guys are of the world, I'm not." Right? If we read the Bible, that's what he said. At the end of his ministry, he said it just like this: "Father, I pray for those you've given me. They're no longer of the world. I don't pray you take them out of the world. And I don't pray for the world." Because Christ in that moment, even though they were crucifying and torturing and doing whatever the hell they were doing at that moment, I don't know, everything, believe it or not, everything that happens in this world is happening in a perfected way. Now that sounds like the madman talking. There is imperfection in the imperfection when we are asleep. Because everything can be a catalyst to helping you wake up. Hang on to it. Don't let go. Megan was talking about changing the view of another. If you change the view, if you let go of your judgments, you are moving towards the awakened state. If you don't, then circumstances are going to come to you that are not going to be the most pleasant, most likely. But those circumstances give you another opportunity. Another. Guess what? You have eternity. We all have eternity to play and torture ourselves at this. Forever. Because now always is. I remember that group that I met with, and they used to say, in the end, we're all going to get it. Meaning we're all going to get enlightenment in the end. You know what? You're not going to get anything if you're believing in linear time, because linear time doesn't never end. It goes and 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 goes. When do you want to wake up? When do you want to experience your fullest self? If you don't. And that's something that Christ also said. He said this: listen, everything I'm telling you, he said, is true. If you don't believe me, I got some advice for you. Go back in the world and make friends, because you're going to need them. Because you're not going anywhere. Even after you leave this body, wherever you are in creation, vibrationally speaking, that's where you're going to find yourself. You're not going to leave this body and instantaneously become operating at a frequency of unconditional love. No. Now is the time to let go of the judgments and wake up and experience unconditional love. Now always is. Right? It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen 1,000 years from now. And until you work and define your treasure, the universe doesn't know what to give you. The universe is going to give you exactly what you're calling for. Now, we can learn how to play with that. We can learn the big secret, and I can get more stuff because I'm learning how to manipulate energy. Okay. If I'm happy with that and it makes me happy, go for it. But know this: until I define my treasure as being unconditional love, and the only way to define that is to lose my attachment to all form. Wow.
This was a little much for me tonight, and I'm
Okay.
not sure I'm in the right place with the rest of these people. But you said one thing to me tonight that just, I don't understand. We don't have to discuss it.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing is, I have an acquaintance whose significant other beats the shit out of her, And anytime I see him, I know what he's doing. He knows that I know what he's doing. When I see him, it turns my stomach.
Kat,
So how do I let that go?
Kat, why don't you tell her that we have act?
That's none of my business. She doesn't, no, I'm not
Oh,
her
Pat,
mother.
I don't think
wanna
it's
be
not
her
about, it's not
counselor.
about letting things go.
No, but how do I, because when I see, right now, I can feel what it's doing to me, even having this conversation. How do you let, I mean, what do you do?
Allow
Spirit.
her to remain in that, you're not responsible for what's happening.
No, I'm not
Let go
responsible.
of it, let go of it.
Who's the one who made the choice to be in that
Oh,
relationship?
absolutely, positively her.
Okay, well, if you feel so moved as to share with her, then share with her. Then share your feelings. And once you've shared, there is nothing you can do to alter and change, but share with her. Listen, you
And
know,
I've done that. I don't mean it that, I mean, she know, I don't have
Okay.
a problem expressing myself.
No.
So she knows, but I mean, for me, how do I, when I see him, how do
Allow
I see
them to
him?
do what they're doing, let go of it, let go of it.
Okay, see, I need to practice this more.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm gonna say goodnight. No, don't let me stop anybody. I'll be back. It's just
Yeah.
it's a little too much for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Good night.
Walk it out. Just let it
Good
go.
night, Gary.
Good night.
No victims, only for 3.
Is that her purse? Oh, no, that's
That's
Megan's.
Megan's.
Okay. Anyway, I think this is where I left off. This occurs so as to bring about each moment of experience in a precise and exact form. Even though most people are blind to the power of their thoughts, they are nonetheless, well, she left just in time, calling forth experiences or lessons to manifest themselves in each and every moment. In reality, the experience that this woman is having is exactly what she's calling for, and she'll have that experience of being in this relationship until she changes her view about it. And no one in creation has the ability to change somebody else's view of reality. We are individually responsible for self.
Right.
I
I
am-
think, you know, where she's coming from, because I know her, but,
Yeah.
you know, she's looking at